How many dreams have you buried because of one negative thought?
How many times
have you let doubt stop you before you even started? Negative thinking is one of the most subtle and destructive forces we face because it doesn't arrive with a warning or a label. It doesn't appear as a loud, obvious obstacle. Instead, it creeps in quietly, disguised as caution, practicality, or even self-awareness. It masquerades as reason, convincing you that you are being realistic when, in fact, it is limiting you, holding you back from your potential. That voice in your head that tells you, you can't do this, you're not good enough, or this will never work, is not your friend. It's not a reflection of truth. It's a reflection of fear. It is the part of your mind that wants to keep you safe by keeping you small, and if you allow it, it will dictate your life. But the first step in taking control of your life is recognizing that negative thinking is not reality. It is a habit of the mind, a programmed pattern that repeats itself because it feels familiar and comfortable, even though it is harmful. Every time you catch yourself doubting your abilities, second-guessing your choices, or imagining the worst-case scenario, you are feeding that habit. The more you indulge it, the stronger it becomes. Like any habit, it can be unlearned, but it requires awareness, persistence, and courage. Understanding that negative thinking is a liar means realizing that thoughts are not facts. Just because your mind conjures an image of failure or fear doesn't make it true. Thoughts are merely signals, mental reactions to circumstances, often exaggerated and distorted by anxiety, past experiences, and insecurity. If you believe everything your mind tells you, you are giving power to a story that is not accurate. You are letting a false narrative shape your actions, decisions, and ultimately your life. By questioning these thoughts, challenging them, and refusing to accept them as truth, you break the hold they have over you. Every time you identify a negative thought and confront it, you weaken its power. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you build confidence and rewrite the story your mind is telling you. Negative thinking thrives on inaction and fear. It loves uncertainty because it feeds on your imagination, exaggerating risks and minimizing possibilities. It convinces you to stay in your comfort zone, to avoid challenges, to settle for less than you are capable of. But when you recognize it as a liar, you stop giving it permission to control your choices. You start to see that fear is not a barrier, but a signal to prepare, to focus, and to move forward despite discomfort. You begin to realize that the thoughts telling you that you can't do something are often the exact thoughts that need to be challenged the most, because they mark the edge of your growth. The liar lives in repetition, and the antidote is action, reflection, and the constant practice of questioning the validity of every negative thought. Once you understand that negative thinking is not reality but a distortion, you gain the freedom to think differently. You can replace "I can't" with "I will try" or "I will learn." You can turn doubt into curiosity and fear into fuel. The process of recognizing and confronting negative thinking is not instantaneous, nor is it easy because the mind clings to familiar patterns. It requires vigilance, patience, and an unshakable commitment to yourself. Every day, the choice is yours to listen to the liar or to challenge it, to remain small or to expand, to settle or to pursue what you truly desire. Once you internalize this truth, you begin to see your potential in a new light. You start to understand that the only limits that truly exist are the ones you accept. And by refusing to accept them, you shift the trajectory of your life. Your mind is one of the most powerful tools you possess. And like any tool, it produces results based on how it is used. If you think of your mind as a garden, it becomes clear that what you plant will determine what grows. Every thought you entertain, every belief you nurture, and every perspective you hold is a seed. Some seeds are small and harmless, like fleeting worries or doubts, but others can grow into sprawling weeds that choke out growth, confidence, and potential. Negative thoughts are these weeds, persistent, invasive, and often disguised as caution or realism. But just as weeds can be uprooted and replaced with healthy plants, so too can negative thinking be replaced with positive, empowering thoughts. To cultivate a flourishing mental garden, you must consciously choose what seeds to plant and diligently care for them. Courage, determination, and self-belief are the most essential seeds you can cultivate because they form the foundation of resilience and achievement. Courage is the seed that allows you to step into uncertainty, to face challenges even when the outcome is unknown, and to act despite fear. Without it, your mind remains trapped in a cycle of hesitation and what-ifs. Planting courage means training yourself to confront discomfort, to move forward when you feel resistance, and to trust that your capacity to adapt and grow is greater than any obstacle in your path. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. Every time you choose to take a risk, speak up, or try something new, you water this seed and allow it to grow stronger. It transforms fear from a paralyzing force into a motivator, a signal that you are expanding beyond your old limitations. Determination is the seed that drives consistency and persistence. It is the commitment to keep going when progress feels slow, when results are invisible, or when setbacks threaten to overwhelm you. Determination is the discipline to continue planning effort daily, even when the harvest seems distant. It reinforces the belief that actions, no matter how small, accumulate over time to produce profound results. When your garden of the mind is rich with determination, obstacles become temporary challenges rather than permanent barriers, and failure becomes a lesson rather than a verdict. Self-belief is the seed that nurtures all others. Without belief in your ability to grow, to adapt, and to succeed, courage falters and determination weakens. Self-belief is cultivated through affirmations, through reflection on past successes, and through the conscious practice of choosing thoughts that reinforce your value and capability. It allows you to trust yourself even when the world doubts you and to maintain momentum when external validation is absent. Every time you affirm your potential, challenge a limiting thought, or act with confidence, you are fertilizing this seed and ensuring that it thrives. To cultivate this garden, awareness is essential. You must identify the weeds, the negative patterns, and the limiting beliefs that threaten to overtake your mind. Only then can you deliberately replace them with the seeds of courage, determination, and self-belief. Consistent attention, nurturing, and deliberate mental choices are required because the mind naturally drifts toward familiar patterns. It is not enough to plant the seeds once. They must be fed with focus, action, and repetition. Visualization, journaling, reflection, and positive self-talk are all tools that reinforce the growth of these seeds. Over time, a mind cultivated in this way becomes resilient, fertile, and capable of producing extraordinary results. The seeds of courage, determination, and self-belief multiply, intertwine, and reinforce each other, creating a mental ecosystem that supports growth in every area of life. Every thought you plant shapes the landscape of your mind, determining not only what you achieve, but also how you experience the journey. The process of consciously planting these seeds is ongoing, requiring patience and vigilance, because neglect allows weeds to return and old patterns to resurface. Procrastination and waiting for the perfect moment are among the most common traps that keep people from achieving their potential. We tell ourselves that we will start tomorrow, that conditions need to be ideal, or that we need more preparation before we act. But the truth is, there is never a perfect moment. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances are never fully under our control, and waiting for perfection only prolongs inaction. The perfect moment is an illusion, a convenient excuse the mind creates to justify hesitation. Action, not timing, creates progress. Every success story is built on the willingness to begin, even when conditions were far from ideal. Waiting for everything to align perfectly often leads to missed opportunities, regrets, and a sense that life is passing by while we remain stagnant. Taking action now requires recognizing that discomfort is part of growth. Waiting for comfort is waiting for stagnation. When you step into action before everything is ready, you learn, adapt, and gain experience that cannot be acquired through planning alone. The process of doing, even imperfectly, generates momentum, builds confidence, and creates results that waiting never will. Every step you take, even if small, is a statement of your commitment to yourself and your goals. Action generates clarity, revealing obstacles and opportunities that remain invisible to those who linger in indecision. The act of beginning transforms abstract goals into tangible steps, bridging the gap between intention and reality. Fear often disguises itself as patience. We convince ourselves that we are being wise by waiting, that we are avoiding mistakes by delaying action, but this is rarely true. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of discomfort are what hold us back, and the longer we wait, the louder those fears become. Action is the antidote to fear. Each time you act despite fear, you shrink its influence. You realize that mistakes are not the end of the road, but part of the process, that judgment from others is fleeting, and that discomfort is temporary. The courage to act becomes a muscle, strengthening with every decision to move forward. Waiting for the perfect moment also creates dependency on external conditions. You become reliant on circumstances, other people's approval, or external validation. Real power comes from taking initiative, from controlling what you can control, your choices, your effort, and your focus. When you take responsibility for starting, for moving forward, and for learning along the way, you reclaim authority over your life. Waiting cedes that authority to the unpredictable nature of the world, leaving you vulnerable to circumstances beyond your control. Momentum is a force that begins with action. The first step, no matter how small, triggers a cascade of progress. Action sparks creativity, teaches resilience, and builds confidence. Even if the initial step feels inadequate, it generates information and experience that waiting never provides. Action turns fear into understanding, uncertainty into learning, and dreams into tangible results. It is through doing that skills are honed, relationships are formed, and opportunities manifest. Every successful person has faced doubt, obstacles, and imperfect conditions. But what sets them apart is that they acted anyway. Starting now requires decisiveness and commitment. It requires recognizing the futility of waiting and choosing instead to embrace effort, risk, and progress. When you stop waiting for the perfect moment, you take control of your destiny. You refuse to let circumstances dictate your future. Action repeated consistently compounds over time, creating outcomes far greater than planning alone could ever achieve. Every delay prolongs uncertainty, while every step forward builds clarity and confidence. The key is to act decisively, persistently, and with focus, trusting that each move, however imperfect, propels you closer to your goals. Fear and doubt are natural emotions, but allowing them to dominate your thoughts is a choice that can limit every aspect of your life. They often arrive disguised as caution, as careful planning, or as realism, convincing you that hesitation is wise and inaction is safe. But the truth is, fear and doubt only hold power over you if you give them permission to dictate your decisions. Replacing fear and doubt with gratitude and decisive action requires a conscious shift in perspective, a deliberate practice of recognizing what is true versus what your mind is amplifying. Fear thrives on uncertainty, on imagining the worst possible outcomes, and on creating scenarios that may never occur. Doubt thrives on comparison, on questioning your worth or abilities, and on magnifying minor setbacks into insurmountable obstacles. When these forces are allowed to dominate, they paralyze action, stunt growth, and keep potential locked away in a prison of hesitation. The first step to overcoming them is to see them for what they are: mental constructs, not truths. Gratitude is a powerful tool in combating fear and doubt because it shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. When you practice gratitude, you actively choose to acknowledge what is already working in your life, what strengths you possess, and what opportunities exist. Gratitude reduces the intensity of fear by reminding you that even in uncertainty, resources, support, and inner strength are available. It reframes challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to your security. Every moment spent focusing on what is going right, rather than what could go wrong, weakens the hold of fear and doubt. Gratitude does not eliminate obstacles, but it strengthens resilience, sharpens perspective, and creates a mental environment in which decisive action becomes possible. Decisive action is the partner to gratitude in overcoming negativity. While gratitude shifts perspective, action shifts reality. When fear tempts you to hesitate, action becomes the antidote. Every step forward, even a small one, creates momentum and reduces the imagined power of fear and doubt. Action converts anxiety into learning, uncertainty into experience, and possibility into achievement. Waiting for perfect conditions or complete certainty only allows fear and doubt to grow stronger, but acting despite them builds confidence and self-trust. The act of moving forward teaches your mind that fear is not a barrier, but a signal, a cue to engage, to prepare, and to act with clarity and focus. Replacing fear and doubt also requires vigilance and self-awareness. Negative thinking often manifests subtly in patterns of procrastination, self-criticism, or avoidance. Recognizing these patterns allows you to intercept them before they control your decisions. Challenging your internal narrative, questioning the validity of your doubts, and redirecting energy toward constructive action strengthens mental discipline and self-efficacy. Over time, consistent practice of gratitude and decisive action reshapes the habitual responses of the mind, retraining it to respond with courage and clarity rather than hesitation and fear. It is important to remember that fear and doubt are not enemies to be eliminated entirely, but signals to be managed. They indicate that you are stepping into growth, taking risks, and moving beyond comfort zones. By consciously replacing them with gratitude and decisive action, you transform them from obstacles into tools, from limitations into guides. Each time you act with intention despite fear, each time you focus on what you appreciate rather than what you lack, you strengthen your ability to respond to life proactively. This approach builds resilience, sharpens judgment, and allows you to navigate challenges with confidence. turning internal resistance into a source of momentum and empowerment. Our thoughts shape our perception of the world, but they do not define who we are. Far too often, people allow fleeting doubts, fears, or negative self-talk to dictate their identity and limit their potential. Thoughts are powerful. They influence emotions, decisions, and behaviors, but they are not absolute truth. A single thought like, "I'm not capable," or "I will fail," can feel convincing, as if it carries the weight of reality, yet it is only a mental reaction, not an unchangeable fact. Recognizing that your thoughts do not define you is the first step toward reclaiming your power. It allows you to separate your sense of self from the temporary and often distorted messages your mind generates. Thoughts are signals, not verdicts. They reflect current perceptions, insecurities, or external influences rather than your inherent abilities or value. When you accept that thoughts are not definitive, you gain freedom. You are no longer bound by the automatic judgments and limiting beliefs that arise in your mind. This awareness allows you to examine your thoughts critically, to ask yourself whether they are based on evidence or emotion, and to decide whether they deserve to influence your actions. You begin to see that negative thinking is often exaggerated, incomplete, or entirely false. It is a story your mind tells, one that can be rewritten. By challenging and reframing your thoughts, you reclaim control over how you respond to situations, rather than being a passive observer of your own doubts and fears. Your choices, not your thoughts, determine your trajectory. Every decision you make, whether to act despite fear, to persist in the face of challenges, or to approach life with courage and focus, shapes your reality more than any internal dialogue ever can. A thought may whisper that success is impossible, but choosing to work toward your goals despite that whisper demonstrates that you are not defined by it. You cannot always control what thoughts appear in your mind, but you can control the actions you take in response to them. Your choices become the evidence of your character, your resilience, and your determination. Acting with intention and integrity in the presence of negative or self-doubting thoughts is what builds confidence, competence, and a sense of agency. Separating yourself from your thoughts also allows for greater emotional resilience. When you encounter fear, anxiety, or discouragement, you can observe these emotions without allowing them to dictate your behavior. You learn to acknowledge the presence of doubt without surrendering to it, to listen to caution without letting it paralyze you, and to let temporary uncertainty coexist with deliberate action. This perspective transforms internal conflict into an opportunity for growth. It teaches you that mental discomfort is not a signal to retreat, but a signal to strengthen your resolve, refine your strategy, and keep moving forward. Developing this mindset requires practice and consistency. It involves actively monitoring your thoughts, identifying patterns of negative self-talk, and deliberately choosing responses that reflect your values and goals rather than your fears. Journaling, reflection, and mindfulness are tools that help create this separation, allowing you to step back from reactive thinking and approach situations with clarity and intention. Over time, you reinforce the understanding that your mind produces a stream of thoughts that are not inherently truthful, and that your identity and outcomes are built on deliberate choices rather than fleeting mental impulses. By internalizing that thoughts are temporary and separate from your identity, you cultivate a sense of empowerment. You are no longer a prisoner of self-doubt, nor are you limited by the judgments of your own mind. Instead, you become the active creator of your life, making decisions rooted in purpose, courage, and clarity, rather than being swayed by every passing negative thought. This shift in perspective transforms your mental landscape, giving you the confidence and freedom to act decisively and to pursue your goals without being hindered by internal resistance. Killing negativity and taking control of your mind is one of the most transformative actions you can take in your life. Negative thoughts, self-doubt, and fear are not just inconvenient. They are barriers that prevent you from achieving your potential and living fully. These thoughts can become habits, recurring patterns that shape your perception of yourself and the world. They distort reality, magnify obstacles, and convince you that you are incapable of achieving your goals. But the power to overcome them lies within you, because your mind is not a passive entity. It responds to attention, practice, and intention. By deliberately choosing to reject negativity and cultivate empowering thoughts, you reclaim authority over your life and your outcomes. Taking control of your mind begins with awareness. You cannot defeat what you do not recognize. Negative thinking often operates quietly, slipping into your awareness disguised as caution. rational concern, or even humor. It whispers doubts, questions your abilities, and predicts failure before you even begin. Observing these thoughts without immediately reacting to them is the first step in breaking their power. Awareness allows you to identify patterns of self-sabotage and to understand the triggers that feed negative thinking. It is not enough to simply hope negativity will disappear. You must actively recognize it, confront it, and refuse to give it authority over your decisions and emotions. Once you are aware, the next step is deliberate action. Controlling your mind is not about suppressing thoughts. It is about choosing which thoughts to nourish and which to discard. This requires replacing fear, doubt, and self-criticism with thoughts that support growth, resilience, and confidence. Affirmations, visualization, and mental rehearsal are powerful tools because they actively train your brain to focus on possibilities rather than limitations. When you consistently direct your mind toward constructive, empowering patterns, you weaken the influence of negativity and strengthen the neural pathways associated with confidence and action. Every thought you consciously cultivate reinforces the mindset that success, growth, and achievement are possible. Discipline is critical in this process. The mind naturally drifts toward familiar patterns, and negativity is often comfortable because it is known. Taking control requires consistent effort, persistence, and accountability. Daily practices such as meditation, journaling, reflection, and setting clear intentions reinforce your ability to direct your focus and resist the pull of unproductive thinking. Discipline is not about rigidity, it is about consistently returning your mind to productive, growth-oriented pathways when it wanders. Over time, these practices create mental resilience, enabling you to face challenges with clarity, make decisions with confidence, and maintain focus despite external pressures. Action reinforces control. Thinking alone is not enough. Applying what you cultivate mentally through real-world actions solidifies your mastery over negativity. Every step you take, every challenge you confront, every goal you pursue in spite of fear strengthens the belief in your own capability. Momentum builds as the mind and body align toward purpose, demonstrating through experience that negativity is not a reflection of your potential, but a temporary obstacle that can be overcome. Taking control of your mind also transforms your relationship with failure and setbacks. When negativity loses its grip, mistakes are no longer catastrophes, they are feedback. Challenges are opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow. The ability to respond to adversity with composure, clarity, and determination stems directly from the discipline of controlling your thoughts. This mindset allows you to approach life proactively, rather than reactively, ensuring that your mental energy is spent on creation, progress, and achievement rather than worry, fear, and self-doubt. Mastering your mind is a continuous process. Negativity will arise, doubts will surface. The difference lies in your response. Each time you confront and replace a negative thought with deliberate, empowering action, you reinforce your authority over your own mind. You cultivate a mental environment where confidence, resilience, and purpose flourish, and where the potential within you is no longer limited by fear or self-doubt. The more consistently you practice this, the more your mind becomes a tool of empowerment rather than an obstacle, allowing you to fully step into the life you are capable of creating.